Hi everyone, it's Becky here. So it's another wonderful sunny day in the summer of 2025. Today I'm taking you all to Steveston Village. So this village is in the city of Richmond, a suburban city of Greater Vancouver. And using Google Map, I already planned out what I'm going to sketch today. So yeah, I'm going to sketch this corner of the Steveston Village streetscape featuring that heritage post office. And here I'm going to go inside that brunch restaurant and grab that table by the window. So of course, I need to order something, to be able to stay at this table. So my parents and I already had lunch at home, so we're just ordering this big plate to share for us three. And now I just drew the contour outline of the big plate and my latte cup. So now I'm going to fill the blank inside the contour outline of the plate by starting to draw the biggest shapes first, which are these two pancakes in cylinder slabs and that strawberry there on top. I think these are fried bananas, some cherries with blueberries, and lots of whipped cream. So this breakfast platter is called Charlotte's Pancakes. So using very gentle hand pressure to suggest the ridges on the whipped cream. And using these loose curves to suggest the round corners on the pancakes. Same for the latte art, no hard pressure of lines. Okay, so now I'm going to paint before the pancakes get cold. So starting with this very diluted yellow ochre for the first layer of the pancakes. Wet into wet, orange mixed with a little bit of burnt sienna. Using these stippling brush marks to skip around for the icing sugar. And dilute the yellow ochre even more to paint the first layer of the fried banana and the whipped cream, the reflective color, onto the whipped cream. Now I'm using the mix of yellow ochre, orange, and a bit of burnt sienna to paint the latte. Wet into wet, pure burnt sienna for the second layer of the latte and just let it blend. Now I just cleaned my brush and grabbed some quinacridone rose, pretty diluted, to paint the first layer of the strawberries and the cherries. Mixing orange and burnt sienna to get an orange brown for the second layer of the pancake. Continuing to use precise stippling marks to skip around, leaving some brighter areas to suggest icing sugar and those areas on the pancakes that are not too overheated. Yeah, and the pancake underneath is pretty easy to suggest, just pure burnt sienna. Now, I'm using burnt sienna mixed with a little bit of orange to paint the fried banana with some crispy sugar on the outside. Another layer of burnt sienna to make the latte a little stronger. Now I'm putting another layer of very diluted Indian yellow for the whipped cream because the whipped cream is not perfect paper white. Now using a less diluted version of quinacridone rose mixed with cadmium red to paint the outside of the strawberry slices and the cherries. Mixing a bit of imperial purple to shade the red-pink fruits a little bit. Using spring green to paint these grapes and a bit of hooker's green to shade the grapes a little bit. Using very small brush marks. And then mixing cobalt blue with imperial purple to get a blue violet for the blueberries. Now I'm using the leftover blue violet to suggest the shaded areas on the whipped cream so they look even more three-dimensional. Now I'm mixing more cobalt blue with some imperial purple to paint the coffee cup and also the plate. Playing with water control, I started the first layer very lightly. And I laid it out very thinly so it dries faster compared to a pool of paint. Now, wet into moist, the same two color combination, cobalt blue with imperial purple, but much less water is mixed into it. So now I'm creating a very quick tonal transition. I'm going to do the same thing for the coffee cup using stippling brush marks to suggest the special marbled pattern. Yeah. And just giving everything a very quick shadow using a higher ratio of imperial purple mixes cobalt blue. And here's the look of my quick 15-minute sketch, and the pancakes are still warm after the sketch. Now, after eating and enjoying my latte, I'm ready to sketch the corner building, the Heritage Post Office, along with some other little houses behind it. So now I spend about 5 minutes doing a quick pencil draft of the two-point perspective of these buildings while waiting for the pancakes to arrive. And now I just drew the lamp post. Behind the lamp post is the post office building. I'm starting to draw the roof, which is obviously a triangular prism. And then some signage and traffic signs. And some little Canadian flags around the bottom of the roof. Now, adding some vertical and horizontal lines to define the body of the post office and adding some more signage. Drawing a little electricity post. Now, I'm drawing this little house behind the post office. The roof is a pyramid shape. The body is a cube shape where we can see two sides. Same for the post office as well. For buildings on the ground level and we're standing on ground level, we can just see two sides of that building's exterior, except the roofs. Now, I just doodled a mother and a kid crossing the street and another guy looking left and right, ready to cross the street. And drawing some thin little white columns. And the bottom line of any cube or rectangular prism is usually going upwards towards the vanishing point. Now I'm adding some more details for the front side of the post office, the eave and the window details, the sign that says post office, shingle details using very gentle pressured lines, and post boxes by the entrance. Another window here on the ground level. Another one here, and the front door is in between the two windows. Shading in these window panels with solid brown ink, so there's a sense of depth. There's really a room behind. So these lines suggesting shingles, and also the top and bottom lines of the windows, if they're above the eye level, they're going down towards the vanishing point on the right, outside the page. Now, I'm adding some little people. So drawing people in different sizes suggests a sense of distance. Drawing the fence of a little Japanese garden beside the post office. And here is the Canadian flag. Now I'm starting to draw these rose shrubberies behind the fence. And this one is the big tree in the middle of the garden. And supporting the post office behind, which is a really nice background element. Another electricity post. And the foliage texture for the big tree using wriggly lines to suggest the puffy clusters of leaves. Okay, now moving on to the next pair of trees. I think these two trees I'm drawing right now, they are Japanese maples. The leaves are always dark purple. So starting with the contour outlines using a blind contour drawing approach, and then summarize the clusters of leaves. Now I'm drawing this cubicle popping out from the roof of the post office. Yeah, so it's just like a cube sinking down into the roof. The left side is kind of like a triangle. Yeah, the roof line there is going down opposite to the bottom line of the building. Same for these shingles. They're all going down into a vanishing point on the right outside the paper. And our eye level is pretty much on the same level as these people on the street. So below the eye level, these horizontal lines are going upwards. Above the eye level, the horizontal lines are going down. And apparently there is a second vanishing point on the left side, outside the paper on the left. As you can see, the bottom edge of the building on the left is going upwards into the vanishing point. Now I'm adding these quick, loose squiggles to suggest the puffiness of the maple tree, shingle details for the little house, the porch area details. And again, these shingle lines are really helping to show the house is truly a cube shape, but you don't have to be very, very accurate. Now, having fun drawing these cars, starting with the contour outlines like trapezoids, and then add these essential parts like wheels, windows, rear lights, and that's it. Now, the next building, and a traffic sign that says one-way traffic, and another one. All of these buildings are in the prototype of cubes and rectangular prisms that we can see two sides. And as you can see, I'm not being super accurate because the more accurate the drawing is, the more stiff and less expression that drawing has. And I'm only drawing the essential details on these buildings, mostly just the windows. And then coming back to the front area, drawing the two slanting lines of the curb, each going to a vanishing point. And these white stripes defining the two-way traffic and the pedestrians' walkways are further defining this 3D streetscape. And now I'm being brave drawing these electricity wires connecting these electricity posts better, so they are more reasonable. And adding some small final details. So here is the look of my finished line drawing, and it took me about 30 minutes to draw. I do have a time limit because the restaurant is closing in about 45 minutes, but I'm not afraid of the challenge. So here's my mini travel palette filled with Daniel Smith's brand watercolors. So I usually start painting the sky first, but this time I want to paint this building first because it's just so charming. So painting Indian yellow for the exterior, the lower part of the building, and mixing cadmium red with a little bit of orange to paint these red areas on a higher level of the little building. This building in the slight distance has pretty much the same red color. Now I'm using mostly burnt umber with a little bit of burnt sienna mixed into it to paint the roof, and also having a little bit of value transition. And I'm doing the same thing for the next roof here and the other roofs. Now I'm ready to paint the sky, just wetting it with clear water and grabbing some manganese blue. Ooh, the manganese blue is actually a little contaminated by imperial purple, but that's okay. It's fun to have a little purple for color variation. Yep. So the sky is loosely painted with manganese blue, pretty diluted. The sky is never a very, very solid blue. And the lower part of the sky has, slight bit of turquoise tint because it's later in the day, in the afternoon around 3 o'clock. So later in the day, we can see more turquoise and green tones in the sky other than just blue. Now I'm underpainting the foreground area, the intersection, using very diluted yellow ochre to show, the world is illuminated by the warm summer sun. Now I'm using leftover blue violet to shade these white and gray building areas. Now I'm ready to paint this big green tree by giving it a bit of a warm sunshine yellow tint first. Same for these two Japanese maples. So I'm going to start with the lightest tint of green, which is spring green mixed with yellow ochre, playing with the different ratios of these two colors. For the higher part of the canopy, for the middle part, I'm using pure spring green. And for the lower part of the canopy, I'm blending in some hooker's green. So the tree is basically shaded. And I'm continuing to play with the two greens and the yellow ochre for the garden shrubberies. Now, painting these Japanese maples by using quinacridone rose, imperial purple, at different ratios for every few brush marks. So for a dark purple object, you don't have to make it too dark. You can make it more lively by making the colors a bit more saturated. For example, when you're painting grapes and blackberries and grapes are not black. They have a wide range of color definitions and tonal definitions of pink and purples. And quickly mixing a turquoise green to paint that faraway building. And painting other gray areas like the window panels, shading the triangular side over there to suggest a shadow from the roof. Same for the cubicle there as well, by mixing imperial purple into red to get a red purple. I also mixed imperial purple with burnt umber to shade the roof there on the second house. Now I'm mixing some more cobalt blue with imperial purple, using this blue violet to shade the yellow post office building, because all white and yellow things in the world and everything else, they need to be shaded. And the right side of the little house is shaded, obviously. Same for most of these other buildings. Simply using blue violet to bring the sensation of a warm summer day. And there are 30 more minutes before they close, and everyone behind me has gone. And it's all quiet now. Now I want to add a bit of shingle texture for the roofs using burnt umber to show that these shingles are laying on top of one another, popping out a little bit from the roof. And I'm continuing to use blue violet to suggest the dark shadow of the trees projected onto that apartment building, and shade the curbs, shadows, using pure cadmium red to paint the Canadian flakes, using blue violet to suggest some more shadows lightly. So the street is never 100% even, so I'm using very diluted blue violet to shade the street a little bit. And using cadmium red to paint these roses in the Japanese garden. Using leftover colors in my palette, like purples, greens, and reds to paint these people's outfits that echoes with the buildings. Shading the right side of these cars, the left side are exposed to the sunlight, so no overpainting. So the Canada Post boxes are red-pink. And just using leftover brown to paint these electricity posts. Some more shadows here and there. Now, I want to intensify the shaded areas on these trees. This is wet on dry. Hooker's green with a little bit of burnt sienna mixed into it. This is imperial purple with a little bit of cobalt blue mixed into it. So these dark shading colors are really pushing the buildings forward. And these buildings, they're looking much better with trees standing behind them compared to, without any trees. So when we're urban sketching, I would say select, an environment with a good amount of foliage. Some final bit of bold bluish gray shading, and that's it. Here's a look of my finished sketch on location. The restaurant is closing in about 10 minutes. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with the result. It's just a sketch that's good enough. And by the way, this is the very last page spread of this sketchbook, and I'm very happy to give it like a happy ending. So before heading home, we're strolling around the market and the wharf area of Steveston Village. Lots of souvenir shops, fish and chips, pizza restaurants. So thank you so much for watching this video, everyone. If you like it, please click like and leave me a comment below. Subscribe to my channel for weekly updates, and I will see you around very soon in the next video. Have a wonderful summer. Enjoy these lovely days.